Yes. So today, well, first, my name is Paul Cook Edwards. I am the founder and co-director of the Emotional Intelligence Urban Initiative. And the purpose of this organization, our organization, is to disseminate emotional intelligence to raise the consciousness of all people through their emotions, linking the emotions to the rational part of the brain so we can have a better quality of life. Um, Today I'm with my co-host, Ethan Smythe. Ethan Smythe, we would call him a community conscious individual, my co-host. And
Greetings.
as a guest today, we have Pastor Nelvern Samuel. I pronounce your name
Uh,
correctly, yes?
yes, sir. Absolutely.
Who was a community activist also, in addition to his pastoral duties, which he lives and breathes. So our conversation today is once again conversations in emotional intelligence, but emotional intelligence in real time. What are the things that we have experienced as it pertains to media, our families, social emotional awareness, um, all of those things we've experienced from day to day uh, through this COVID-19 um, pandemic. Uh, so it's a pleasure to have you guys involved with this project, this ongoing project in emotional intelligence, conversations in emotional intelligence. And I wanted to start by giving the definition. There's several abilities to emotional intelligence. There are four abilities to emotional intelligence. These are abilities which can become skills with practice. Um, the first ability is recognizing emotions, emotional perception. The second ability is using emotions to facilitate a better thought process. The third ability is understanding emotions, what we call emotional knowledge. And the fourth ability is managing your emotions, emotional regulation. But for today, the discussion will focus on recognizing emotions, emotional perception. Um, and I'll read this very slowly. If anyone wants to take notes or whatever the case may be. Emotional recognition is the set of abilities. The set of abilities refers to our capacity to identify and label emotions in ourselves, being aware of the emotions that we have personally, and also being aware of the emotions in other individuals, being able to observe emotions in other individuals and making or taking note of it. So, so the first ability is recognizing emotions in ourselves and recognizing emotions in others. And we do this through physical states, through things that people say, their body language. That's how we recognize in ourselves and in others, right? Um, and and empathy, being empathetic to others. So we want to recognize emotion in ourselves. We want to recognize emotions in others, and we want to be empathetic. Um, we want to recognize that through physically when you're nervous or you're fearful, your breathing may increase. When you're happy, you have butterflies in your stomach. Those are the first ways in which we recognize emotions, and we can also observe that in others. Maybe you have beads of sweat when you get ready to take a test. The physiological responses are first pieces of information to recognize emotions. But the discussion is um, maybe we could start with media. Um, I'll ask the question: Do you think, guys, that media has been how has media affected you guys on a personal level in terms of emotions? What have you recognized in yourself as it pertains to the effect that media has had on you through this corona pandemic?
You wanna go first, Pastor?
Sure. I'll jump on. Um, to be very, very frank, I think any pandemic is led by media. Um, it becomes a pandemic when the media says it is. And so, one of the things that I've even learned and that have begun to adapt is, and I'm getting ready to actually teach this to my church in a private session, the importance of just fasting from media.
Mm.
What happens is so I'm in a weight loss journey, and part of that process has been intermittent fasting. where you take time specifically to not consume whatever it is, so that your body has the opportunity to process, so that when you do consume again, your body is set where all the nutrients are concerned. And I want to employ that same principle with our team, with our teams and our leaders, and say, we have to now begin intermittent media fasting, where we actually have to step away from the media because there's so much that's being said. Literally, I was listening to a jazz station a couple of days ago, and I counted that within the 1 hour of that last hour of that DJ's show, they talked about COVID-19 about 11 or 12 times within an hour. So I was hearing bad news at least 12 times in an hour just from that radio station. That did not include when I jumped on Instagram and Facebook and looked at my CNN app. It did not, it just literally, within that hour, I was inundated with information that if I was not careful, it would have led me in a whole nother thinking pattern. And it creates that kind of nervousness. And I said, no, I can't do this. I got to turn this thing off. Media has the capacity to influence me in ways that I don't want. And not just talking about the news, but let's just take music, for example, right? If I were to start this statement, anybody on this line, anybody listening can finish it. The best part of waking up, the commercial
in my cup. What is it? What is it?
Right,
Folgers,
there
right?
it is. It's see that? Thank you, CCC, the community conscious co-host, for helping us out there. You didn't plan to learn that. No one told you to learn that, right? You didn't go to school for it. You didn't get a degree in coffee making. Nobody listening is a barista. But we have been inundated with that commercial over the years that whether you think about it or not, you may have forgotten the name, but you know the intent of the statement. And that's the power of media. Media has the capacity to influence your heart, your memories, your thoughts without your permission.
And
Yes.
and just to accentuate what you're saying, what is media, right? It's a communication medium, or the media we're referring to really is just the broadcast medium, and
Correct.
And that medium uses what to communicate? Words. And what do we know about the word? What do we know about when God created, right? He spoke into being, the word of his power.
And the word is the light. The Lord is power and is the light.
That's right. So, so that underscores what you were just, describing, how that the power of the word and how they understand this, because they know they have to communicate a message and they want us to respond a certain way, to think a certain way. And, to answer your question in terms of recognizing your emotional state in this time with what's happening. I had to back out of, just like how you said, you have to turn it off, because all day long you'll hear the numbers and the death and the misery stories, and a couple of things are very absent from the reporting, which is the recovery stories, which are more than the death stories. One.
Oh yeah.
Two, they never ever discuss anything that can be considered, how do you treat this? Right? Because they'll tell you, oh, these are the symptoms. Go get tested. One, tests aren't as readily available as they would have you to believe they are. Two, you can have the symptoms. And I've heard this story on the news and from a personal friend of mine. He and his wife coughed on Monday, joked about it, but by Wednesday they were both feeling miserable enough with his continued dry cough and her now having phlegmy situations. They said, no, we think we better go. They go to the hospital. Hospital doesn't let them in, tells them to go home, and that's what they do. They didn't get tested, didn't get it even let into the hospital, but they were sent away. And then a day later, their child says, no, you guys got to go back to the hospital. So they went to a different hospital, got admitted, got tested, and his wife spent 18 days in the hospital. I think he spent like 10 days in the hospital, and they've since recovered. Thankfully, I don't think either one of them. I know he didn't. I'm not sure about her, but I don't think either one of them went on a ventilator. But I say all this to say this: that we are, and I just for my emotional state, recognizing, I know that this thing is disturbing me. I know that as much as I have faith, I know that at moments, certain things trigger me, and I feel like I'm either angry about this place where we find ourselves. I'm lamenting when I hear certain songs and how it makes me think and feel. Like I have to separate that and say, wow, that song made me feel a certain way back then, and I can feel how I felt back then, and now I have another layer on top of it that says there was a way of existence back then that is not the way of existence now. And so now I have all of that piled up on me. I don't know, one song just really brought me to tears because I just felt like the whole situation was just, this situation is just absolutely horrible. And to say, and I've resigned in my mind that I'm not really interested, and I'd like to see a campaign move out. I'm not interested in anything remotely close to what they're claiming is going to be the new normal, to be the new normal. I'm not interested in it, and I don't think it has to be. I think we will allow it to be if we don't educate ourselves on a much higher and deeper level. But that's not what they're interested in. They want to create a new level, and so this media is designed to depress the spirit so that you can acquiesce to the powers that are telling you that they know how to handle this. And that's what I think is happening here. And that's what I recognize. And that's what I'm fighting against.
And I think, and I want to address several things. I think that from a biblical perspective, Pastor, when we talk about the power of the word, right? The word is the life. Is that correct?
Yeah. And the word brings life.
Word is life, right? And if you're getting fed this information, depending on what is going into your five senses, your conscious mind, that when you watch a horror movie, why do you have nightmares about that horror movie? Because, it goes into your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is always active, And so if the word is life, then that word, that reoccurring 12 times COVID over and over again, becomes a living thing within you, just as something positive that's expressed to you can become a living thing, And Ethan mentioned a song that had a certain significance prior to this pandemic. And in emotional intelligence, we talk a lot about triggers. One of the last conversations we had, in one of our podcasts, we discussed triggers, and there are certain triggers associated with COVID-19, but we all have triggers prior to COVID-19, and self-awareness is about knowing what your triggers are. Some people, their triggers are if you leave a little bit of orange juice in the fridge, that could be a trigger, or when someone tells you, I know you're mad, I know how you feel. No, you don't know how I feel. But the point I'm trying to make is that self-awareness is knowing your triggers, and you can also be triggered. And I think what we're saying is that this constant negative media attention, or how media discusses or expresses this COVID-19 is death. If the word is life, then those words can bring a certain depth to your emotional state, state of mind. I mean, does that make sense, Pastor, or what do you think?
Absolutely. So what I want to jump in on is, I didn't know we were going to go this heavy, but
just let me say this, Pastor, before you go.
That's what we do.
But Pastor, before you go, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. Don't forget what you're going to say, because you're going to start off the next segment. Okay?
Absolutely.